Remember that this whole video is just supposed to be like a joke? It's not like a serious reading. Well, it's going to sound like a serious reading, but I wanted to do these because I love these, like, Portuguese freaking creepypastas. Just because the grammar is so atrocious. Because they're just like, they throw it into Google Translate and then pop it out. And they're like, yeah, that's good. Never have even imagined what Jeff's madness can be overwhelming. Much for someone with extremely fragile sanity can reach as much as mad for different reasons. I heard recently of a new killer. I stay shocked to hear from her. But my first thought was that it was just a crazy fan of Jeff the Killer, because of his appearance. But after doing a thorough investigation of her, I discovered it was worse than a monster. Things went well. Extracted from a local newspaper. Strange and unexplained murders, guilty trials have multiplied after several months. They had to suspect the murderer was investigated long ago, but found a witness who said advertising was not a murderer, if not two. Terrorizing different cities, it is unknown if they worked together or separately, but luckily he was able to find this guy, and hardly from the hospital told us what happened. Here's what the guy said. It happened one night, guy narrate. Walked from my work to home. It was pretty desolate along streets. He had decided to take a shortcut again to change the routine. Big mistake. Already halfway, I began to feel what I watched and heard footsteps. Turned quickly, looking. It was not a thief, but I found nothing. So I just take everything as a product of my imagination. Continue walking, but the feeling of being watched became stronger, and I heard steps closer. I noticed something approaching to turn my face and reflecting the elusive. Suddenly, in a moment, I see a black-haired girl with a wicked charred, pretty highlighted fuchsia body and high point to a 16 or 17. Though his face did not look like human, his skin was white inhumanly. His eyes looked at me with a thirst for blood. Were extremely open, and a strange bruising looked in his eye. His smile was so superhuman. It was rough, and I was cut. I stood still for a minute there, feeling the adrenaline rushing through my body. She did not let any word, just stood there for what seemed an eternity. And finally, the girl just gave a speech as he tilted his head to one side in a way that a psychopath would do it. Then I immediately healed nerves. Go to sleep, my prince. Immediately reacted and undertook the race to the opposite direction of it. I ran as ever, but it was not enough as I heard the footsteps of the girl follow me, then feel its weight on my own, followed by a sharp cold through my arm. I fell to the ground with a groan of pain. I seized the floor. Girl released a maniacal laugh, drew his blade from my shoulder and featured my shirt, making a strange caress my abdomen naked, watching in detail, but luckily we hear the voice of a policeman who had come, was holding a gun. The girl sat up quickly and the police fired several bullets in his direction. But this elusive, like the falling leaves of trees they were, not to let go of that laugh, walked away, climbing several of the houses. Never able to forget that look, let alone that laugh. After the interview, the young man was found in his house. De-sliced and lack of bodies were found in his house. It was full of blood everywhere. The room where the body was found on the wall was found written in blood. Did you not go to sleep, prince? If you find the girl from the description, or the murderer of the last time, please get in touch with the police. Nina Hopkins, 11 years old, was transferred to a new school to be closer to home. One Sunday morning, a day before his first day at her new school, woke up and went to the bathroom and washed his teeth. Went back to his bed and took his laptop to connect. Nina was not the kind of girl that stood energized to open the window and let in the light to do something productive in the day. No, she just enjoyed sitting down to watch animes or listen to music as rock, J-pop, or pop, playing video games, or just play guitar. So he liked to be, and so loved her family and friends. But this time she did not want to do any of the things you normally did not. This time wanted to read the 1000th time The Origin of Jeff the Killer. Creepypasta adored her. But that was his favorite. He felt a strange attraction to him. Admiration more than anything. Every time I read it, felt a strange impulse to invade. But exactly why I enjoyed this strange impulse? When I read, suddenly the door hole quickly looked up, meeting his little brother Chris and his beautiful green eyes. Chris was the prince of Nina. I loved it and used to call because every night fairy tales will be asleep. She also liked these stories. Chris was pretty dark black hair, fair skin, and light green eyes, like his late father. However, she was light brown hair, fair skin, and light blue eyes. She was very like her mother. "Sis, to eat?" alleged the child with an innocent smile. "I'm my prince," cheek-pinching Nina add as honey. I leave the computer on the side and under to eat. The next morning, Nina and Chris went to school. Nina got up and dressed in a shirt of her favorite shirts, and she took her bag. She felt something strange, like a strange milestone. He did hold her head in an attempt to say stop, doing a strange little smile formed on his mouth. Suddenly, Pitt, her mother's voice, bring to reality and immediately took the bag and under, completely ignoring what happened. I hope Chris facing the door, shortly after the child under quite a hurry. "Ready?" asked the mother. "Yes," responded both. "Well, good luck in school," added his mother back to the kitchen. "Bye, Mom," responded both boys, leaving home. They walked to school because it seemed annoying Nina take the bus. Were divided, and Nina went to high school with his brother, primary. Nina felt a hell class apart long. Nina came out and went looking for Chris to his room. East out both decided to find a quiet place to eat without having to put up with all students playing around. So I found a garden behind the school, where almost was nobody, not a teacher or a student. So they sat passiblemente to eat, thinking they would have a leisurely breakfast. They could see a few steps closer to it. Nina looked up and met a girl much older than her, black hair and some street clothes. "Well, well, but what we have here, new students?" announced the girl. "My name is Claudia, and I rule at this school. If you do not obey what I say, we'll pay dearly," alleged as she pulled a knife from her jeans. Suddenly, about 2 guys came out of a nearby tree. "Known to Malcolm and Yanni." Nina sat up quickly and stood in front of Chris to protect it. "Hey, do not want any trouble. We just want a relaxed breakfast," Nina clarified. "Ah, I see, but you should not be here. This area is our," Claudia said, approaching them. "That's stupid. You have no right to send anyone," said Chris, posing in front of Nina and receiving a nasty blow to the stomach from Yanni. Chris calloused Nina's arms after the coup. "Chris!" said Nina, holding in his arms. "Well, if you do not want to be next, I recommend obey and get out of here," claimed Claudia, stroking Nina's face with a knife. Nina did nothing but drop a clean hit on Claudia's face, knocking her to the ground. Quickly let Nina lunged Chris, and Claudia taking the knife and plunging it into Claudia's shoulder. Nina Malcolm head back and overtook him in his arms. This gave a strong kick in the crotch of the guy, knocking him to the ground. Nina turned quickly to release several kicks in the boy's face, and bounced to cause nosebleeds and mouth. Yanni immediately chickened out to see the girl's reaction to the attack, and started the race away from her. But Nina immediately noticed it, and ran Yanni, taking Claudia's shoulder blade, and lunged at the boy, digging the knife in the stomach. "Nina! Basta!" heard the voice of his little brother. Nina immediately turned to him and watched. They had a very surprised look. Yanni Nina let go and stepped back, watching their blood-stained hands on something. It felt like a monster, but I had to admit, the other side was extremely good. and the momentum died down. Turning back to his brother that followed there surprised, unable to drop a phrase, Nina ran to him and took his arm. "Come on, we cannot be here for long," and left the yard. After that, Nina went to wash his hands to take Chris to review the hit. Avoid at all costs, Nina mentioned something about that. Chris just thought it was an impulse to defend, but she knew something else was going on here. I knew it was something stronger and horrible, that feeling of being powerful and strong, the need to hurt someone. The day passed quickly, and when the brothers returned, they sat down to eat with his mother. "Well, and how they were in school?" asked his mother with a sweet smile. Chris shuddered to try to answer that question. "Excellent," commented Nina, something psychotic in a smile. Nina went upstairs after eating and opened his closet, meeting his collection of Jeff the Killer, where several posters, different plates, some old notebooks that he had lined with some dolls and stuffed animals. Take a small one she loved, and bed were shot with this, and I observe, with his sinister smile, that she or he was afraid or intimidated of him down otherwise somewhat amused. I looked at him for a while, then whisper, "Jeff, you make me this." After the incident looked for the culprits of the fight, but did not frighten them. And how they think it was a 11-year-old girl as Nina. Oh, a 6 years as Chris. They had that to your advantage to avoid suspicion. And as it happened the first day of school, many could not tell if Nina was there because many do not know, and was not attracting much attention. So many do not know whether it was that day or not. But despite everything, Nina opened her locker one day with a note which said, "I know what you did, but do not worry. I will not tell anyone. You are skillful, but dangerous." I owed Nina's signature or anything identifying him. He had the slightest idea who had sent him. Someone came, but decided not to take into account that note. If you would not tell whoever sent it, good for her. Meanwhile, Nina's sanity was not improving, as mad as he took a knife and sat much of the night by the room of his brother or mother. One day, Chris was playing with his new friends on the block. It was getting dark, so Nina's mother, Monica, asked him for it. Nina went out and saw the children playing in the distance. As he approached, Chris could not make out, and she became concerned, went over to the children and asked them where there was Chris, and they responded that they had gone with a girl older than her. Nina was very concerned and went home to take the knife he had hidden in his room without his mother finding out. Chris was looking for, not praying that anything happened. Bringing the further away from the house, Nina spent a lot of time and could not come up with Chris. Getting desperate and mourn that I hear a car coming. This strike along with Nina and then took a few steps back, preventing you were to do something. In that the doors opened, and out came Chris, giving the floor. They heard laughter coming from the car that immediately ripped. Nina quickly held his arms. Chris is nervous, and the poor child found beaten in some disrupted clothing. "Chris! Holy God! Happen?" exclaimed Nina, holding the small body of his brother. "Eat them there, me Nina, at me to played," alleged Chris with much difficulty, and fell to mourn on the chest of her older sister. Nina tried to control something that was screaming inside. Over and over and over again, I felt an anger control, up at his brother in his arms, and led him quickly to hospital for shock and other try-to-stand he had. Here Nina called her mother and informed him of what happened. His mother went as fast as he could to the hospital, and they came and told him that there was strong shocks and internal bleeding, and traces of violations were found. The mother of Nina began to mourn, and Nina just kept silent to the situation, avoiding at all costs drop this need to hurt someone. The next day he was discharged to Chris, but they asked him to stay a while at rest. So for 3 weeks I cared for Chris, Nina telling stories and helping a lot with your medications. And when Nina went to school again, he left a new note, which read, "I'm sorry about your brother. I hope to recover. Do not think you're alone. I'm here. I'll be your friend, but unfortunately distance. Nina felt a slight flush to that. I checked the letter again and found no signature. Weeks passed and go to classes to play Chris. This was a very bad grace, and because that day was school picture day, so look for something downward Nina get without giving much more than a black skirt cuts, black stocking with burgundy stripes, a black covered Converse with a Frenelia black and blue striped, fingerless gloves, favorites, and collected hair with blood red tie. Yet he felt that something was missing. So I went in your closet meeting his favorite sweater purple, which reminded him of Jeff the Killer sweater, so put it on and under the stairs meeting his brother who was waiting in the door. Both left saying goodbye to his mother. They came to school. This time it was by bus to prevent that they did not seek to Chris fuck them on the road. Meeting came to school with a not-so-pleasant surprise. Claudia, Malcolm, and Yanni walked down the hallway, looking for her new friends. Nina was aware of the reason of why their faces were searching her and Chris. Nina, Chris react and take them out of the hall arm where they were and at all costs avoid being seen. The day passed quickly, and did Nina and Chris were found the trio, or so she thought. Back classes, Nina felt that followed them, so to turn of receiving a blow to the face, fell to the ground and looked for his brother. Finding him caught in the arms of Malcolm, Nina tried to get up, but received another blow to the belly, fell back to the ground, and looked up, seeing Claudia. "At last, I have you where you wanted, brat," added Claudia, posing in front of her. "Pay for what the last time?" A liege is pulling a gun. "I do not care a pussy fight with you, and if I beat once I can do it, our shit." Nina trying to sit up. Immediately, Claudia went to drop a headshot on Nina, but this quickly reacted and let a kick to the gun to not give him. Nina stood up and ran nimbly to an abandoned house nearby, locked inside, up the stairs being chased by the trio, felt the wave of bullets chasing him, but each bullet was a stray bullet. Nina is locked in the bathroom, looking desperately for something to defend. "Salnina, you stay there? Knowing what I did to your brother that night? You idiot!" Gratonio, Claudia from outside. Nina felt a surge of hatred and anger, and again that need killing. Nina looked around the room where he locked himself aficionado, finding an iron tipped. Nina watched him for a brief moment, a wry smile forming on his face, took the iron, and left the trio dodging bullets as if they were leaves. Approaching the trio, took the iron and threw the head of Yanni, releasing a stream of blood. Some blood fell on Nina's face. And there, something seemed to work well. Something broke, like a thin thread had broken, that thread dividing sanity from insanity. Malcolm Claudia took a few steps back, Nina turning to his direction, showing a psychotic smile, along with a pervasive and horrific shit, making even Chris shiver. Claudia tried to run along with Malcolm, preventing Nina followed them through, leaving Claudia semi-hit inconsist on the floor. Followed gave him to release Malcolm from Chris, which callous on the floor, staring in horror at her sister. Nina Malcolm repeatedly hit, opening a wound in the head, giving many blows to leave your head like a crimson-red multo. Claudia tried to move to get the gun, but Nina hand flat so you do not take. Claudia looked up, meeting with the piercing look of Nina. This shook his head and crossed the iron right in your heart. Nina, feel good, alleged Chris with horror. Nina turned to face him with a little more laxed, but without deleting your smile. "Feeling good? I feel excelente. Let my prince, we go home," Chris alleged, charging Nina, which will miss him, since she was always so complicated. Nina and Chris returned home. Nina was seen by his mother, as he was full of blood, so I quickly went to his room and knelt at the edge of his bed, burying his head in his arms as he held her. Nina gritted teeth, as preventing it out. Nina, with little awareness that he had grabbed her laptop and wrote a note that perhaps no one will ever read. Night fell, and the mother of Nina and her brother slept passiblemente. However, Nina could not. This need not let him. So he got up, still not removed his clothes that day, and looked in the mirror. He saw a common face. So without deleting its cynic smile, which carried since long, under the stairs ready to do the craziest of his life. I walk into the kitchen drinking a bottle of vodka, put it on the table, and look for a pot of bleach down the cabinets. Finding nothing, it began to harden your hearts. "Where are you, piece of bleach?" Nina groaned, looking for him. "Did you look for these small?" Nina heard a voice behind her, turned around, and found quite refreshing surprise to see a guy at the entrance of the kitchen holding the can of lye. The boy had an extremely white skin. His hair was black and charred, carried a rough and horrible smile. "Ah, that comforting surprise! Jeff the killer!" alleged Nina with a look somewhat challenging. "I have seen for a while. I think you're coconut and went down the drain. Ha ha ha!" claimed Jeff gracefully. "You're right, so I need that pot of bleach if I may," Nina said, giving his hand to give it to her. "Ah, let me help!" exclaimed Jeff, opening the pot, and Nina enchilidimo enzyme. This brought a groan when I walk into his eyes bleach, followed by sitting slumped on the floor. Nina felt another liquid running through her head. Get up to look, and Jeff had the tinderbox in hands. Nina smiled and looked at him defiantly. "What do you expect?" "Do it," alleged the girl with derision. Jeff grinned and lit the Yuscaro. "Go to sleep," added Yuscaro, dropping. Immediately, when the flames touched Nina's skin, just let out a loud scream. I felt a hell surrounding him. I looked around at Jeff, but it was gone. Nina writhed on the floor and saw that his mother and brother Chris had arrived and were putting out the fire. Was semi-conscious when they cut it. So I immediately called the hospital, and got many neighbors came out to see what happened because of the screaming. Nina fell unconscious when they put on a stretcher and taken to the ambulance. Among the neighbors, a boy with black hair, fair complexion, and green eyes, slightly higher than Nina, looked at him with some concern, but I tried to approach her mother, took the shoulder. "No, not safe," luring woman my submission to her. The boy watched as they put Nina to the ambulance. Nina woke up after being unconscious in the ambulance. I tried to move, but it prevented bandages. Immediately tried to get up, but a nurse came in with her brother and mother. "It will be better if you stay still. You are not able to move," said the nurse, laying her back again. Her mother and brother came to him, and encouraged a while. Nina kept the other side entirely, as only his mother as someone else, and his brother, had to admit, was still his only treasure. Step 1 month recovery. Nina received little support from her mother and brother. The day came they would take the bandages. His mother and his brother were anxious to see this face. Like Nina, thankfully, kept his face intact and not burned too. "Well, Miss Nina, burns were not severe. He lasted longer and had lost most of his face, including his nose, but did not last long burning, which did not cause great harm," said doctor, ready to remove the last band. Let's see the Nina's face. Nina's mother looked at him in horror as his brother was hiding behind his mother. What is it?" said Nina, getting up and going to the toilet, running, and watched in the mirror. His face, it was quite the opposite as before. His skin was turned completely white. Her hair fell to her knees now over was halfway back, apart from black and charred. Her skin was raspy, almost like leather. I looked puzzled, her new face. "Her sister," I'm Chris, tugging. "You still look as beautiful as before." But the child not only lied because his body was scorched and pale, but by the look, penetrating and disturbing, with which the girl I look at his younger brother and squatted at his height. "Oh, Chris, you're always so accommodating," Nina claimed while looking at him in that way so disturbing. "But it is not. I see more beautiful than ever," she exclaimed. opening his arms and leaving not only perplexed his mother and brother, but also the doctors and nurses. "This face! Perfect! Oh, my dear Jeff! Gave me the face!" the girl continued shouting. "Doctor, my daughter is well," asked your mother, approaching the doctor. "Well, usually things go well after a lot of soothing, but if not improve, bring to mind test you, okay?" announced the doctor. "Yes," I argue weakly, approaching his mother, Nina. "We love, and have to go." Addis grabbed him by the shoulders. "Ha ha 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 ha! Sure!" Nina said while looking at his ugly face in the mirror. The nurse handed him his clothes, was his purple jacket with black cut skirt and black stockings with burgundy stripes. Nina dressed and left the hospital on his way home, not knowing that Nina had become a monster that would just think about killing in cold blood. They come to the house and kept Nina show that crooked smile. On that, Nina's focused on the home front, and noticed that at the window of the house loomed a guy, black hair and green eyes. The boy had his mouth watching the disfigured face of Nina. It will look for a moment and put your index finger to your mouth in the form of silence, and enter the house followed. That night, Nina's mother sobs, woke, hearing from some point in the hallway. Her mother gets up and looks at this and sees the door and the light on Nina's room, walked quietly and came to the door, watching the horrible blood festival that held the young girl. Nina had a body with various enzyme intestines out of bed. The body was of a girl with blonde hair, and it was very nice, but where he did not look well. Nina was above him with a kitchen knife in hand, with all his clothes stained with blood, and staring at the ceiling. "She used to torment me at school," alleged Nina, as she kept her eyes to the ceiling. "Mommy, I'm more beautiful than ever!" Nina exclaimed, turning to see his mother. Her face was worse, his smile crooked and badly cut-up cheeks. Her eyes were cooked to keep them wide open. "I get tired of farces. I get tired of mourn and suffer. Now I'll smile always, and always see my beautiful face, the face that I was granted Jeff. I am not beautiful, Mama?" wondered the girl. Nina's mother could not help but take a few steps back, shaking her head. "No, Nina, you've become a monster. This was by your obsession with this murderer. I submit is taking to run down the hall." Nina swiftly followed her mother. "I kill for fun when they run," exclaimed as she followed her mother. She was running to Chris's room to wake him, but just going to take the knob, Nina went through the knife to the skull of her mother, immediately pulling down. "It is unfortunate that Mom does not believe I'm beautiful. How sad," alleged Nina, pulling the knife out of his mother's head. Chris in his room. He was restless. He was in danger and moved, looking accommodated, but nothing was in it. Nina opens the door, revealing his shadow. Chris took the sheets off to see his sister, due to the light, and could not see his face, but if the knife. Chris was alarmed and snuggled into his pillow. "Chris," I submit, seen leaving Nina to Chris, who let out a little moan of horror as Nina's face. "Right? I am beautiful," alleges, leaning his head on one side. Chris nodded in fear as he covered with sheets. "Oh, come on, Chris. I did not do anything," Nina alleged, hiding his hand while crossing fingers. "You know, I feel more new than ever, and start a new life. Will you come with me?" Nina said, getting closer to it. Chris nodded again. "Oh, good boy. Now if you want to join me, just go to sleep, my prince." Nina kicked the front door of the house, carrying his brother on his back. Chris was dead, with a creepy clown smile and eyes with something black, Bornaboldo, had burned eyelids. He was covered in blood and with multiple stabs. Nina took a few steps at the entrance and fixed his gaze on the boy for a while. This time wore a white shirt and white jeans, looking at a book, but out of curiosity turned, encountering the horrible scene of Nina. "Go, Chris. Looks like someone knows more than you need. Let's put him to sleep." Nina walking alleged the house opposite. Oh god, the grammar is so bad. I love it. I love these like really bad Portuguese, Spanish, these non-English Google translated stories. Just Google translated freaking creepypastas are the best because they're like trying to be scary and stuff, but the grammar is just so bad and I love it. So yeah, should we do more of this? If you have any ideas, you should comment your ideas. Yeah. Alright. Well, thanks for listening. See ya. Male-com Claudia took a few steps back, Nina turning to his direction, showing a psychotic smile, along with a pervasive and horrific shit, making even Chris shiver. I can't even say that. The grammar's so bad, I love it.